Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who is here with us today. I know everybody, because of time differences, we are all, some are here, some are not here, but we'll really like to have the nice panel, beautiful women here, uh, professional ladies who are looking out for us in the field of autism to introduce themselves. So I know some of you are familiar with some faces, but I'll go ahead and let Jawanda Newsom introduce herself.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jawanda. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. I am a BCBA, Certified Behavior Analyst. I have been one, I really don't even know the years, but I've been certified altogether as a BCABA and a BCBA for about 18 years now. And I run a therapy practice called ABA and Behavioral Services, and we service anywhere from a year and a half to 2 year olds, all the way to adults 99 years old. We have a state contract where we work with adults in nursing facilities. So we work the whole gamut. So that's me.
Thank you, Jawanda. So, Miriam.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam. I'm a psychologist from Morocco, and I'm happy to be here today with you in this webinar.
Okay, you done?
I'm done.
That was like waiting.
You have more to say. You have more to say. I feel it.
Okay, Jennifer, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Polite. I have been working in ABA for the past 6 years, and currently I teach autism parent education training. And I'm also the founder and executive director of Autism Social Communities, a 501c3 nonprofit located in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so that's a little bit about me. Currently, I'm on the road to getting my BCBA, and I'm excited about it. So, yay!
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jennifer. Christina.
Hi, so I'm Christina Spiel. I work at Autism Compassion Africa in Cape Coast, Ghana. I'm studying to become a BCABA, done with coursework, so waiting to take the exam, fingers crossed. We have a center in Cape Coast that works with kids between the ages of 3 years to as old as 21. So I've been with them for almost 3 years now.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Christina.
Really cool. Is that Whitney's organization?
Nice.
Yes, that's Whitney's organization.
Okay.
All right. Am I slacking in any way? Ashley, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ashley Knuckle. I'm a board certified behavior analyst, and I currently live and work in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm kind of a lifelong student. I'm a PhD student at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, and my research interests are primarily focused around international dissemination and culturally adapted interventions and training. So I'm really excited to be part of this webinar today and discuss the impact of culture on behavioral strategies with you all. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for this panel. So I'll go ahead and kill time and ask the questions. So I'll go to Jawanda.
Okay.
How can people confuse autism with other related disorders, and what are the typical signs to look for?
I would like to say yes, of course. Some disabilities that I think are easily confused are just learning disabilities. That's one. Two would be, I don't know how people feel about this in this forum, but sensory processing disorder, it does not have its it's not its own disorder as of right now, but there is a community that's pushing for it, and they want to say that it's separate from autism. So I would like to say yes. And for the DSM criteria for autism is what? Repetitive behaviors. I don't know another disorder. If someone can tell me.
ADHD.
Jennifer
And
can go ahead.
and social pragmatic communication disorders.
But
Those are
they don't display the repetitive behaviors, do they?
oh, right, correct,
Right.
correct.
So those are the things that I would look out for to distinguish between autism and those other disorders. You know, and what is the other one? Social communication. You have to have a lack of social communication for autism. And so I think still with that ADHD and stuff, you will still have those components. So that would be what will differentiate autism from those other disabilities. And that's what I would look out for the most. Anyone else?
Can I jump in on that?
Jennifer, can you go ahead? Yes.
Yeah, I knew that when you had sent that question, it was kind of loaded, and I wanted to
Yes.
prepare my answer ahead of time. So I just kind of, restate some of the things that I had wrote down, and so again, Jay, I agree with you. Yes, autism is a spectrum disorder. That can be accompanied or masked by other disorders such as ADHD, speech language impairment disorders, and also social pragmatic communication disorders, which is SCD, and intellectual disabilities, just to name a few, which can also lead to that misdiagnosis of autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah.
And I was also saying that this is also because, again, autism is a spectrum comprised of multiple characteristics, and some identifiable characteristics include, like you were saying, Jay, restrictive, repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities. I always say lining up toys is a classic characteristic of that. Language delay, which is common among diagnosed children, with about 75% of cases showing some type of language delay, according to the American Speech Language Hearing Association. And lastly, I want to say, and challenges in social communication, to name a few. And other characteristics are lack of eye contact, pointing, joint attention, no response to name, and lack of consistent response to name. So just to answer that question, because I knew it was loaded, so I wanted to make sure you came up with it.
Right.
So for parents and folks to really,
Yeah,
I want to break down joint attention really good. I know you mentioned joint attention, but I think that's a key one. Does anybody have a great explanation that parents will understand what joint attention is? No?
Anyone want to go?
Anyone?
Miriam?
You could take it, Jay, if you have one.
I don't have a good explanation. It's so difficult for me to explain even with my therapist, but I always think of it as like a triangle.
Correct. Okay.
And so you need two things in an object or a situation, right?
Correct.
So the child should be able to direct their attention from whatever object or situation back to you, and then back to that object or situation.
Correct.
So
yeah, that was perfectly explained. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miriam, you have something to add on to that?
Yeah, as a psychologist, I will just say that for me and professionals in the field, see that they know that autism is not a single disorder, but a spectrum of society of a closely related disorder with shared core of symptoms. So, but every individual on the autism spectrum has problems to some degree with social interaction, empathy, communication, and flexible behavior too. But the level of disability and the combination of symptoms, it changes and it varies from person to person. In fact, for example, two kids with the same diagnosis may look very different when it comes to their behavior and ability. Now, and there's a lot there's, I can say 6 to 7 disorder a part of or closely related to autism. And I can say Williams syndrome, tardive dyskinesia, Rett syndrome, and Angelman syndrome, Prader-Willi syndrome. So all of these, they have medical comorbiditis and common points and commonly seen with autism. And this is what we found in Africa, a lot of misdiagnosis in autism.
I I like that you brought that up, Miriam, because here, like where I'm located, I don't know if any of you guys are located in the States. Oh, Jay, you are, right? Okay. Yeah. And so Miriam, I like that you brought up that point, because here in the States, what we see, again, accompanied or masked is intellectual disability, ADHD. Oftentimes for Black children, they're more times likely to receive an ADHD diagnosis first, or something like that, or adjustment behavior disorder, things like that, instead of autism. First.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that, you mentioned, because when you were mentioning that, I was like, wait, where are you located? Because none of that here sounds familiar in the States. You're saying Williams disorder and those other disorders. I was like, none of that sounds, familiar, accompanied with autism more so than the ones I mentioned first.
Right.
And in areas like Africa, Ghana, especially, most people confuse autism with every other special disease, special disorder. So most people come to our center with different, like a wide spectrum of disorders, and they think it's autism. So as long as they feel that the child is not acting in a way that they feel they should act, they feel it's autism. So once they get autism, they put every other special case into that bracket and present it as autism. So yeah, it is.
That's how it is in Kenya as well. I think there are definitely a limited amount of practitioners, or actually doctors, who are available to provide the diagnosis. And so sometimes folks may seek out other kind of under the table ways for getting the diagnosis, which may not be completely accurate.
Oh, that's here in the United States, because we know in the United States, how do we get ABA treatment paid for? You have to have an autism diagnosis.
Correct.
There are people who are getting this label where their children really do not.
Like, just to be, sorry, Wanda, but like, just to be clear about this point, like a lot of professionals in the field who had the right to do the diagnosis of autism, they don't have enough training and to do it. They don't have to use the tools, ADOS, DSM-5. This is what we need in Africa. This is what we need in all around the world. It's not just in here.
No.
Yeah. And I think it seems like that's the difference. So in the US, there might be like people are diagnosing autism more frequently. And here in Kenya or Ghana too, you see less people being diagnosed with autism because of the lack of accessibility.
And that's why we have always issues in statistics.
Yes.
Yes. And I kind of also wanted to say a point to just contribute to the overall conversation as well. And the diagnosis, what I've heard, and I'm familiar with some kids, if they have social pragmatic communication disorder, and other challenges that kind of exemplify autism, they won't get the diagnosis because their disorder more so falls on the social pragmatic communication. Are you guys familiar with that? Jay, you might be familiar with that. So parents really push for, the diagnosis, so that ABA, and so it's
a tough one. It's a tough one.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's a tough one. But if anyone in that Facebook community, it's BCBAs and autistic towards ABA reform. Is anyone in that community?
No, I'm not. No.
It's a very tough community to be in. Just be prepared if you decide to join. Okay? Very tough. They attack ABA, they attack behavior analysts like crazy. But if you listen to them, they have some great points. And one of the main points they always try to push is that what we consider autism is not autism. They want us to stop considering everything autism. So if there's a child with self-injurious behavior, if there's a child with physical aggression and stuff, they want us to look further and not contribute that to autism.
I think another thing is with the social, pragmatic communication disorders, I think is from what I've experienced with some kiddos is, speech here in America is limited.
Yes.
It might be 30 minutes, 45 minutes a week. So then that's why parents do push for, more services to get that autism diagnosis so that they can be supported through ABA. And it's the therapy system, it can get frustrating at times. you know, so
All right. That was an interesting topic. It was like all of you just went in on it.
Ruth, that's a topic that you can pick.
Yeah, I'm
we
like,
could go on and on.
I'm just like not calling, I'm just listening. I'm like, everybody knows what they're talking. It's like, yeah, it's really good. So I'm gonna go to the second question. Improving communications. How do you go about it at the therapy setup? Or how can caregivers apply it at the home setting? And what strategies have you implemented and worked for you as a professional? And what did you change and why? I'll go to Ashley.
Okay, so the first step in ABA when you're looking at improving communication is to do an assessment, so a functional communication assessment like BB Map or even ABLES to see the baseline level. So where are the children at? And it can be kind of complicated to explain using all of our ABA terms. But basically, we have a bunch of different kinds of functional communication that we can use, modalities like the picture exchange communication system. Sometimes we incorporate sign language, but we're usually also trying to increase vocal speech. So in terms of, those are the strategies that I have experience with implementing in homes, at least. And in terms of incorporating caregivers into the programming, it's really important for parents and caregivers to always be involved throughout the assessment and implementation process to make sure that they're able to effectively implement the programs as well, because us as practitioners, we're not always there. And so it's important for the parents to be able to continue the therapy when the RBT or the behavior analyst leaves.
Okay.
Does anyone else have anything they want to add to that?
Yeah.
In terms of improving communication, here we talk about how we even go about running programs or training kids according to what they understand. So, for example, although our organization is predominantly English speaking and all, we try as much as possible to speak with the kids or convert their programs into languages that they understand. So you find us using SD's Infanti or English or Chi or anything that they understand. And including the parents, we also have to talk to them in as much as we're trying to be technical about our work. We try to speak to them in a language that they understand. So as much as like refraining from mentalistic language, we also speak to them in a way that they'll get the rationale behind what we're doing, how we're training, so that when they're duplicating these at home, it will be easier. It won't be like, oh, so the behavior analyst says we should do it this way, so there's no other way I can do it. Otherwise, if we like go on and force our ways on the parents without considering how they understand it and how they're going to implement it, it will be quite difficult for them to even implement it in the absence of a behavior technician or behavior analyst.
Right. Thank you. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I'll go after Jennifer. Jennifer?
Oh, I go ahead. Okay. Ashley, you were saying, you kind of mentioned a good point that I really like. You were talking about PECs, and then what was the other one you were saying?
So sometimes we incorporate like manual sign language or
Yes,
vocal speech is pretty much
Correct.
Everyone's trying to focus on that. Yeah.
And I thought that this was a semi-loaded question, not as much as number one. This is a little bit dialed back, but for myself, so again, like I said, having experience in ABA, and then now teaching autism parent education training, which is a service that I provide. I wanted to answer that question through this. So I wanted to answer this question through that lens of autism parent education, how I go about it. So essentially what I was saying was, again, due to each child having varying communication needs, it's important that your therapist, your behavioral therapist, or your speech therapist to understand how to progress your child's speech and language. And then I also said, oftentimes this is a challenge for behavioral therapists for the reason that they may have limited knowledge about speech therapy. And that's for that increased vocal speech part. Ashley, I wanted to touch on that. And then I was also saying, however, this is why it's even more important for you to take a holistic approach to ensuring that your child's therapy goals are in alignment with their with the therapies they are receiving. And so when I teach autism parent education training, and you know, I have a parent I'm working with, I'm asking them, okay, what is the SLP saying? Right? I act as, you know, the ABA, that whole person. That's who I act as. And so again, I ask them what is their SLP saying, and then I know an SLP. And so for myself, I bring all the tools together, and that's how I take a holistic approach to continue to move my kiddos' language forward. I recall about 10 months ago, I started with a kid, and the only thing he could say was "I want." And so again, I said, "Mom and Dad, what are, you know, his goals for, you know, speech?" And then again, I got with the SLP that I knew, and, you know, gave parents, you know, homework, you know, throughout the week to educate them on how do we continue to progress his language. Instead of asking their kiddo questions, we formed statements to give him more language. And so that's, I would take a holistic approach, and I know ABA doesn't do that.
Okay, I have a question.
I totally agree with that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. But we are getting better in that. In that our insurance carriers, or at least I know here in Texas, they want us to have coordination of care. So if they want us to do it, so we do get with that speech therapist, we do get with the doctor, the psychiatrist, and the occupational therapist. We even have team meetings together, all of us, to learn what we're doing. Because I heard you talk about PECs and but there's also AAC, you know, the augmentative devices that we use, and we use that a lot here in Texas. And everyone has to be on the same page when we're using that. We have to have the same targets. We have to have the same setups. We have to even have coordination of care with the school, because schools do not, here in Texas, schools do not take the child's personal device. The school provides their own device. So we have to make sure our devices are matching, or our textbooks are matching. I don't know why Texas does that. They don't want to take responsibility for the personal property. So the client has, you know, whatever they're using at school, and then they have whatever they're using at home. And so we have to be very careful. And then most of our clients get two forms of speech therapy. They get their private speech therapy, and then they get their school speech therapy. You know, and so we really have to make sure we have a good coordination of care going on. So,
oh, sorry. Can I say one more thing? Sorry, is that okay? Okay. I think, you know, I think everyone would agree that too, this is really important, you know, for parents to be really active participants in their child's therapy, because most times, as we know, and that was one thing for me in working at ABA, that I was only providing that direct service to the child, not to the parent, right? And so when I would leave, parents still didn't know what to do, which is why I started, you know, autism parent education training for that reason. But that's when I, you know, that's why I always say, like, the holistic approach, it begins with the parents. You and I could do all the work of trying to be holistic, but if the parents don't know what those goals are for each of the therapies their child's receiving, it's tough.
Yeah.
And if the parents don't agree with the goals too, then they're not going to be followed. There's going to be no follow through. So that's really essential. Yeah.
I want to add one.
So, for example, so that we get the parents on board, we try and conduct monthly parent trainings, so that they get to know the rationale behind the programs, what their input is, how they're going to conduct it, etc., etc. So we always want to rope in the parents and have their views and have their participation at every point. That's very key, especially at our centers.
Okay, go ahead, Miriam. You wanted to add something?
Yeah. So I just want to combine between the first question and the second question too. So, because when we say, like, let's say we have a family and they just have their child just diagnosed with autism. So the first thing that this family should do and think about it, and this is an advice, is to be trained and how to teach the child how to deal with, how to improve their communication, and how to cooperate with professionals in the field to improve any skills and any needed skills for that child. So improving communication, one of the most important thing in the early age, in the early intervention of every child. And one of the most important too is the cooperation with professionals and the multidisciplinary also approaches. What I said about that is the ABA with SLPs who have a training in how to use ABA2 strategies in their therapy and their interventions too. So this is one of the most important thing for families. Also, why families, they are the best person, they are the best and caregivers, they are the best ones to provide an intervention with a great quality, because they most of the time that child is spending most of the time with their kids at home. So a great training should be provided to families, and every strategies in their IP and the communication, the main should be teach to families, and it should be provided to families too. So that's the only point that I want to combine between the first question and the second question in my answer.
All right. So we go to the next question, and I will ask. I'll go back to. Oh, I will ask this, and I will go with Jennifer.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna ask. Okay? How can professionals choose an appropriate assessment for the clients?
Mm-hmm. I would shoot that to one of the BCBAs.
I will go with Marian.
Yeah.
I'm not a BCBA, but
Sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
I'm not a BCBA, but I have experience in ABA, like 9 years of experience in ABA. But I can like any of the BCBAs can answer it, then I can, yeah. Go ahead.
So the way we take assessment is, listen, in the United States with our peer source, we have a difficult, we have to toe the fine line, because your insurance company tells you what they will accept. Sadly, they will. But of course, we would like all of our assessment to be very individualized. Sometimes I feel like we don't even need a hardcore curriculum. Like it's your occupation, it's your all of that. You can, if you're a good analyst, you can pick your own goals, right? Through just watching the client, interviewing parents, seeing what's most important, making up those goals and treatment plans. But because we have payer sources that we must answer to, we usually take standardized forms like the BMAP, the ABLES, the APLES, the BILIN, and the SRS. That's basically in America what payer sources will pay for. So anyone else?
Sorry.
Hello? Yeah, I can. So I lost you guys, so I can hear you now. So one that I didn't hear all your intervention. I don't know what was about. I'm sorry. Could you just go over the last point?
Oh, I was just saying that the payer source, they're going to make you use particular assessments, and that's the BBMOP, the ABLES, the APLES, and BILIN and SRS. Those are the main. If you're here in the United States, that is basically what a BCBA is doing. That is, and you can pick the ABLES, BBMAP, all of that. That's interchangeable. I think they just go hand in hand,
So there's 3, Jay, is what you're saying?
No, like 5. So BBMAP, APLES, ABLES, the BILIN. You can actually use the BILIN and the SRS.
Okay, I'm familiar only with the BBMAP and the BILIN. Yeah, those are in the
also P.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no.
Peak is not being paid for, Ashley.
Not in Florida. My clinic was using Peak.
Yeah.
Our insurance cases.
Nice. Yeah, we haven't, but I've done peak training and everything, but we haven't. And then I sneak in other things like skills checklists, peers, and skills screening. I'll sneak in.
And also the ESDM for early intervention.
Yes, that one as well.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, like I will be saying that most, like what I see, like with my experience, most, and this is wrong for me actually, like most of professionals, they do assessments using what they are used to. So, but assessments should be used according to what the child needs. For example, we can't hear you, Jawanda. You're muted.
Yes.
So I was saying that like most of like professionals, they are using assessment that they are like they used to use. But like what we need is like most of the kids need they have like specific assessments that they need. For example, a 2 years old girl, for example, that has been diagnosed with autism. I believe that PSDM is the most someone who has, because we have like functional and developmental assessments. We have to respect the level, we have to respect the skills, we have to respect the age too. And for example, and because if we are using ABLES, for example, for a child who has like or an adult with autism who has like 26 years old, am I going to like, is the professional is going to write an IEP to teach her how to write A or B? No, she needs social skills. She needs a lot of skills that are going so great with her age and respecting her age. Yeah, so that's what I wanted just to add to Joanda, because she said everything.
Yes. So we have to come together, and I don't want to say fight our payer sources, but we have to make sure that some BCBAs get hired onto these insurance panels so they can help direct what's going to be appropriate for us. Because like you said, I work with adults as well. I'm not going to pull out a VB map.
Exactly.
I'm not going to do that. So yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. There's so much static noises in the back. So I was like, if you are not using your phone, earphones or something, you can mute your mic so maybe we can see where the problem is. All right. Wow. This is a really hard topic. I'm like just listening. Okay.
Ruth,
So
was that the third? Sorry, Ruth, to interrupt you. Was that the third question?
I was just being random.
She's not going in.
Okay.
I'm not following.
I'm thinking.
I'm not following.
She's keeping us on our toes.
Yes, I'm just asking
I was
questions.
like, that wasn't on there.
Guys, I would be like, is there any questions?
Okay, so I'm going to ask this one. What can we do to ensure ABA therapy and interventions are culturally responsive? I'll go to Ashley.
So there's definitely a lot more research needed to develop an evidence base for the application of ABA interventions in non-Western communities, such as those across Africa and like in Kenya, where I'm living and working. So it's important for practitioners to constantly be collecting data on social validity and cultural adequacy of their intervention procedures. And this needs to be happening consistently through assessment, through implementation, making sure you're constantly getting feedback by the stakeholders who are the experts on their own culture and their own values, right? So this could include distributing the social validity questionnaires to parents and incorporating this feedback into your plans to ensure your procedures and trainings are responsive to the culture. And then again, I would stress that we need to really make sure that we're involving the parents throughout the whole process and discussing the intervention plans and rationales for choosing such procedures, the parents, in a way that they can understand. Make sure that they're able to make sure that they have adequate resources to implement the procedures that you're suggesting, and that the parents are comfortable implementing the procedures. Because if the parents aren't comfortable with the intervention you've chosen, it is your job to change the procedure. You're not doing your job correctly.
Yes.
So I think there's definitely a lot of work to do in ABA in terms of making our services culturally responsive and applicable. And this is also relevant in the United States when working with communities that are not in the majority as well. So does anyone else have anything to say about that?
Can I add?
I'm going to add just a little bit about this. First of all, most of the ABA, some of the ABA, for example, we use Primax principle in almost every African setting. First, go wash your plates, then we can go and play with your friends. And maybe when you do something extraordinary, your parent thinks that, oh, she washed the plates without me asking. Yeah, you get a lot of praise. So sort of like these things are already at play somehow in the African setting. It just hasn't been tagged as ABA strategy. So if we hone in on these things that the kids are used to, okay, I'm used to washing my plates and then watching my favorite show, or I'm used to tying my shoelace and then getting a high five from my dad, then these are like steps, things that are already there that we can build on. So in as much as it doesn't look so much that there is ABA being practiced in African settings, these are little things that are already existing that we can build on in future. So according to actually go and take the data and then move on with it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
Can I add to that as well? So actually, I like where you said where we work with the parent. I would like to even go a step further because I work with teenagers, adults, and on. We need to incorporate them as well. They have a voice, even outside of their parents. They have a voice, and I think if you join that one group, it keeps sticking out in my mind. They say that their voice is not heard, and sometimes we're picking so many goals that add no value to their life. And now as adults, they're able to say that to us. And so I think we need to make sure we're also including that teenager, we're including that adult that we're actually servicing into the assessment piece, and that they're helping pick their goals. We need to make sure everything is client-centered. I think we need to start going more client-centered. So.
Joanna, I really like this point. So I, at the beginning, I didn't say I have a master's degree in psychology and I have a master's degree in law, in public law. So my research and my thesis was focused on the legal rights of people with disabilities, individuals with disabilities. And one of the points that I was working on and dealing with is having those child having their own voice. They have the right to talk about what they need. They have the right to express what they need. They express what they want, what they doesn't want, what they don't want to. So this is a good point too. And also having an appropriate objectives in their life that respects their age. It's one of their rights too. And yeah, that's it.
Ashley, I liked your point when you were talking about culturally relevant and then applicable to parents. And I think that applicable part is so important, just as much as the culturally relevant. But I can't stress how applicable to parents, because if it's not, they're not going to use it. And again, what they want is extremely important, instead of just going down the goal, creating these goals and say, okay, your child needs to know how to do this, blah, blah, blah. But listening to the parents, making sure it's applicable, making sure it's what they want. I don't know. I think that's important. I understand, Jay, your part about teens, but I think, when I say applicable, that means for our early intervention babies.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I do a lot of that, and I love early intervention.
Yes.
And it's extremely important, the applicable part.
It is. But here in Texas, children do not get diagnosed so early. So we're usually working with 5, 7, 8 year olds and then on up,
What's the age for Texas? Most likely that you're seeing a diagnosis?
School age. So after maybe first grade.
Wow.
I mean, there's still some, if a parent is adamant enough, and saying no,
correct, Correct.
But,
Correct. Oh
but
man, that's
I
an
didn't-
advocacy question
We-
there.
We don't even have those data for in Kenya to know what the average rate or the average age is for the diagnosis. But recently, I have been receiving a lot of referrals for early intervention babies, like 2 and under, which is amazing.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and Jay, like
And
you
then-
said, if parents are advocating, and pushing and continuously doing it, they'll get it. I recall having a couple of actually early intervention babies that I've worked with who were like 4 and under. I would say between ages 2 to 4. It's really because their parents were extremely observant and really pushed.
But what are you saying by early intervention babies? Because when we say early intervention babies, they do get services, but it's not ABA or
I would say when I say early intervention, I would say like really young, like 2, 3, 4. I'm not gonna say 7. I'm saying like really, really young.
But are they getting
It's usually 5 and under, yeah.
Are they getting the
5 and under.
autism diagnosis and getting ABA services?
Yes.
Hmm.
Here in California, yes.
Okay. I think it's more those liberal states. I'm not to bring politics into this.
Yeah.
I think it's more the liberal states that
it's just some like in the Bay Area. I've heard some clients of a client being 2, and then they only receive ABA for about 9 months until they're 3, and then they have to go through a whole new process. It's very kind of don't get involved in that.
Okay.
I believe that this is a point in all over the world, and that's why I mentioned at the beginning the problem of statistics too, and also, for example, that's why I always say to parents, your goal is not to look after the diagnostic. If you feel that your child has something that you need to work on, you have to use that time. You have to earn that time and work on that point when you feel that your child needs to work on.
Okay. As a continuation to the earlier question, I'm going to ask, can behavior analytic strategy be effectively applied across cultures in Africa? It's just a continuation of the topic. So Ashley, you can go ahead since you had started.
Okay, so ABA is the #1 evidence-based intervention for children with autism, and behavioral principles, which we use in ABA, can be effectively applied across cultures for all humans. I do believe that. So punishment, reinforcement, these kinds of behavioral principles are applicable. However, the significant majority of our evidence base has been derived from these Western investigations. So our research, our literature, and even when you say Western investigations, it's really, let's be honest, the United States. So the majority of our literature has happened in the United States. We do not have an evidence base for these procedures and interventions outside of that culture. So when we're implementing these strategies within the global population, we really need to take that into account. We're saying, oh, this is the #1 evidence-based intervention, but we don't have the evidence base to back that up. So we really, really need increased research efforts. There is some preliminary data that was recently published about the application of ABA interventions in Ghana. And what we found, what's really interesting is that we use behavior-specific praise to try to increase on-task behavior in children with autism by training the caregivers using self-monitoring and performance feedback to implement this praise, right? And in the US, we look at behavior-specific praise as like the gold standard form of praise. So we hypothesized that would increase on-task behavior, but what we actually saw was that it decreased on-task behavior for some of our participants. And so then we went through a cultural adaptation process, and what we found was that the praise wasn't really culturally relevant. And so we adapted the praise to incorporate a lot of different kind of social stimuli like drumming and singing, and we saw an increase in the students' on-task behavior after incorporating the culturally adapted praise. And so this kind of just shows that it's a very simple behavior analytic procedure, but it kind of provides a rationale for why we need to develop a more critical lens when we're applying other behavior analytic strategies abroad.
Spio, can you add to that? Spio.
Yeah, I was actually going to. Yeah, I think that main focus should be, is it relevant to the culture or the setting that you're in, where you are applying the ABA strategies? How are you going to sort of make it fit into the setting where you are? So as Ashley mentioned, in Ghana, praise is not so much as appreciated or as seen as a reward, as much as maybe a high five, an edible, getting to spend time talking with someone that you really like, a teacher, a friend that you really like. So here we do mostly like edibles, playing on the swing, stuff like that. And that's something that the kids really cherish. And so those are the things that we adapt to as much. In as much as praise and natural reinforcers should be incorporated, we start from the level where we're given what the child wants or they need at that moment, from that level to a point where we can fade that out and introduce more natural reinforcers. So as she mentioned, it's true. In different settings, we definitely use the ABA strategies, but in different ways that fit the particular setting at that time.
All right. So anybody want to add to that? Miriam?
I don't want to add, but I just want to let you guys know that, or ladies know that I only have 5% battery left and I can't find my charger. And we open at 9, so I might have to go in a few minutes. So.
Okay, so I'll ask the last one of the questions, and it is, how can professionals choose an appropriate assessment for their clients? And what are the best structured strategies in teaching individuals with ASD? Miriam, can you go with that? You're muted.
Oh, I say that I think that we answered that questions, but like I just want to add, sorry, Ruth, I just want to add one point about the cultural part, which is like, I know that Ashley, she's the right person, and she's so amazing in in her researchers in the field of how cultures think and how we have to respect other cultures to have a great implementation and interventions of ABA strategies. I believe that all individuals are part of at least one culture. So these cultures contingencies shape behavior, and behavior that may or may not be acceptable or familiar to that professional, for example, that came from another culture or another country. So I believe that to better serve individuals, assessments and intervention, these assessments and these interventions should be selected with a consideration of cultural factors, including cultural preference and norms. For example, I was working in Abu Dhabi, in UAE, in Emirates, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, and I was working in France and was working in USA. And I'm from Morocco. I'm from North Africa. So I have experience and how we really have to respect others' cultures before having any judgment, before deciding, and before giving any instructions or before any minimum intervention. We really have to take in consideration the other and the client's family or that children's family culture. So I will give you, for example, like consider an example of a professional who provided in-home and community services to the family of a child with severe autism, for example. And the family to home church is very important, attended a weekly 3-hour church service. So that professional who did not attend church and was not a religious person failed to inquire in details about the family's and child's experience at church. Why? Just because that professional, like, and also the family specifically asked the professional to teach the child the necessary skills to practice in the church service. So the professional still did not assign a high priority to teaching the child the skills needed to successful church attendance. So that professional's choices demonstrated a lack of understanding of the client's values, characteristic, preferences, and also circumstance in French, so circumstances. So in contrast, a culturally aware behavior analysis and professionals and any other professionals that will work with that child may be aware that the selection of target behaviors is an expression, expression of values, and that parental expectation of children are likely controlled by cultural contingencies. So that's why we always have to take care and pay our attentions to the cultural part and our interventions, all our like in all other cultures.
Wow.
That's it.
I have another.
I'd like to add a bit. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Christina. I just also like to say that, like, me as a white person, as a white BCBA working in Kenya, I am never going to fully understand the culture here, no matter how long I live here, no matter how hard I try. Even if I can speak the local languages, I will never fully understand the culture. And so I see my role here in terms of dissemination, not me specifically working with clients implementing programs, but training other folks to become behavior analysts. So we really need to be focusing on increasing and upscaling our folks' access to quality training, to the verified course sequence, to quality supervision, so that they can go out and implement and become behavior analysts themselves. And so I would just like to add that point.
Thank you. Christina?
Yeah, and I think that's what happened. With what Ashley's saying, I think that's what happened here in Ghana. Currently, 3 of us are being trained to be behavior or certified behavior assistant behavior analysts, so that we'll be able to, as being Ghanaians in this setting, especially in Kipos, we'll be able to disseminate or explain what we are doing, so that to the level that they can understand, everybody can understand. And talking about how applying cultural standards to our strategies, as Miriam mentioned, even some of the basic things, as much as little as probably say train a child how to use a fork and knife to eat, as would be in their program, would like to look at how the person actually eats at home. Is this person likely going to use a fork and knife to eat at home? Or is she just going to pick up the food with her hand? So are we going to train her based on what we want her to do or what she does at home? Or given another example, hand washing or self-care, for example, when we train the child how to wash their hand under a faucet because that's what we want or that's what we used to, or will we train the child how to wash their hand in a bowl, which is more culturally appropriate or which is likely to be what they do in the house. So these little things also count as a lot, so that at the end of the day, the parents don't see it as bringing something so foreign to them, going to take away what they're used to and replacing it with something totally different that they can't keep up at home, but as actually helping to make their lives better, even with what they're used to.
Thank you, Christina. You have anything to add to this?
Yes, I just want to add one last point. Like,
okay.
Look, in my experience, for example, in one Arabic country, there will like professionals from state who provide services in that country, and that country is like kind of Islamic reserve, like they have that Islamic reserve part. So those professionals, I believe what they were doing is right. Why? Because they were providing service that they have to do, but they are collaborating with parents and other professionals and from that cultures. And this is the point like that I want to add also, and it's the same thing that what Ashley said, is even a person who's from other country and she learns the language, she married a person from that country, she knows that person and she lives like years in that country, it doesn't mean that he will really know he will really know the real culture of that country. That's why the collaboration with professionals, the collaboration with parents in that country and with that culture is something very important for these children and for these individuals with autism.
All right. I think we're about to wind up. Anybody who wants to add anything to this before we close and go to the next panel?
I just wanted to say that I appreciated Miriam, Christina, and Ashley, all of your perspectives on the culture part. Again, you know, when I was reading that question, I was like, yes, but I didn't know how to answer it. And so just getting that perspective from you all, oh my goodness, that was a whole topic that should be extended in itself. So I appreciated everybody's perspectives on that.
Jawanda?
I just want to say thank you for talking to all of you guys. It's so hard sometimes when we're in this field, we don't get to talk to other professionals and bounce ideas and share things. And I love to hear from others, especially that are not right here where I am. So that's been great. And I hope that we've been able to help others. And I want to get more concrete next time. And when we're maybe talking about those those AACs and things, maybe let's pull them out and show them I don't want to do concrete strategies or anything like that because that's individualized. But I would like to know what we're talking about. I think we throw these terms out still, assuming that they will be able to understand what we're saying, and not all parents do. So I want to
Yeah,
make sure of that.
that is great. I am so happy with this panel because we went deep down in culture and everything. We brought, all new things. And Ashley is doing a great job in Kenya.
Yes.
Christina, you are almost up there, and Miriam. So I think we should like focus, like the way what Ashley is trying actually to do is really important. It's a great thing. So I hope we all can come together at some point, in support or whatever, in support Christina, in support Miriam in Morocco. Jawanda is here. Jennifer is
It's
there.
a
Maybe
team
one day,
effort.
we can all just band together one time and go to this, whatever, if it's Kenya, if Ashley starts the program, we go to Kenya, support her, to Ghana, support Bio, to Morocco, support Miriam. And we really appreciate Ashley being in Kenya because at least I'm happy knowing she's doing something for us and our people
Yeah.
down there. So I'm gonna end this and go to the second panel. So this group is coming back, and we this is
Definitely.
the most. It's like the topics you guys had no filter. It was like just coming in, coming in. It was really interesting.
It was a pleasure, guys. It was a pleasure
Yes.
to be in this webinar. Jawanda, Theo, Jennifer, Ashley, Ruth, thank you for the invitation.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, too.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Thank
It was
Okay.
nice
Thank you,
talking
guys.
to
Bye
you.
bye.
you.
All right. Have a good
All
one.
right. Bye.
Bye.